use the mic? Yeah. Got it. Hello? I think that's probably okay.
You guys, you're okay?
Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. First, I should introduce myself another way. I am Machmik, which means how the eagle holds its head, of the Monson Hitanea, the Kid Fox Warrior Society of the Tsisitas, the people, also known as the Cheyenne. And today, for my talk, I want to tell you a legend of the Cheyenne people. The legend's about Boaz Ta'an, who was the first person. And at that time, Eshahaman, which is what we call the earth, our grandmother, was covered in water. And Boaz Ta'an was floating on his back in the water. He knew the birds, the water birds, and the fish. And he would talk to some of them, and they would share things. But in his heart, he began to feel a yearning. And the yearning was for a home that he could call his own. So he called to Maheo, the great mystery. Maheo, a second time. Maheo, third time. Maheo, and a fourth time. Maheo. And Maheo came and said, I am here. He said, Maheo, I want to have a home of my own, a place where I can be. Maheo said, well, if you'll go below the water, you'll find a hard substance there. And if you give me that substance, then I can give you a home. So Boaz Ta'an tried many times. He would hold his breath, he would dive, he would go down until it began to get dark and cold. But he couldn't reach this hard substance. So he came up and he had another idea. There were two swans who were the biggest, strongest birds that he knew. And he called one over, Brother Swan, Brother Swan. And he told him, Mihail has told me that if I can get the hard substance from below the water, I can have a home. And so the swan said, well, if any of the birds can do it, it would be me. So the swan took off, circled as swans do, put out his neck, held his wings to his side, and went down into the water. But the swan could not reach this hard substance at the bottom. So he came up and he said, I'm sorry, Boaz Ta'an. If I can't reach this hard substance, I don't think anyone can. But Boaz Ta'an, first person, did not give up. And he saw a V shape of geese flying in the sky, and there was one he knew. And he called to her, Sister Goose, Sister Goose. And she came down out of the V and said, yes, Boaz Ta'an, what can I do for you? So he told her the story of Maheo telling him to get this dark substance. And so the goose took off into the air above the water, put down his neck, pulled in his wings, and started kicking. But he was also unsuccessful. And so Boaz Ta'an had not given up yet, and he saw a pair of mallard ducks. So he asked Brother Duck, come here, told him his story, but he was also unsuccessful. So first person was ready to just give up on trying to find a home. He was lying on his back with his hands up, and he felt a little tap on his hand. And it was a little mud hen, a little gray, plain-looking mud hen. But they were friends. They were special friends, and they shared a friendship. They would talk about the world as they knew it. They would talk about Maheo or Eshahaman, and they shared their lives that way. And the mud hen said, I heard what you were saying to the other birds, and I would like to try and get this hard substance for you because you're my friend. And he said, well, thank you, little mud hen. I appreciate that, but if these other bigger birds couldn't get it for me, I'm not sure you'd be able to either. She said, still, I would like to try. So she went up into the air, as a mud hen would do, circling till she was just a small dot in the sky. And she came down like a rock, and she hit the water, pulled in her wings, and she was kicking. And as she went down, some of the fish were saying, hey-ya, hey-ya, little mud hen, but she didn't talk to them. She just kept kicking and kicking. It got cold, got dark, and she began to be afraid, but she thought of her friend Boaz, and she kept going a little further, and her beak hit something. She opened her beak, took some into her beak, and headed to the top. And when she came up, her lungs were burning from the effort. She came up above the water, and she had to breathe in between this substance in her mouth, and she took some breaths, and she went over and put the substance into the hand of Boaz Da'an. So Boaz Da'an said, thank you, little mud hen. Thank you so much. Or in Cheyenne, he would have said, Aho. And so he called to Maheo. Maheo, Maheo, twice. Maheo, 3 times. How many times did he call? 4. 4th time. Maheo. And the 4th time, Maheo said, I am here. And he said, the little mud hen has brought me this substance from far below the water. And so Maheo took this substance and he put it in 4 places around in the four directions. And it began to grow and become a huge mass of land. And for the first time, Boaz Da'an stood on 2 legs, which is why we say humans are 2-legged. And he walked up onto the land, which became his home. So I want to end by saying 4 things about this story. One is, you'll notice that Boaz Da'an talks to the animals. And that's a reflection of how the Cheyenne people feel about Eshahaman, our grandmother, and the earth. The 2-leggeds, the 4-leggeds, birds in the air, fish in the water, they all have spirit. The trees, the hemlocks and the pines you see around here have spirit. And so we respect the spirit of all of these things. The second point I'd like to make is that the little mud hen was, I can't remember my second point. Okay, the second point is that the little mud hen was the smallest of all the birds that tried. But it makes the point that as she was going down, she tested herself. And Colonel Elwell, who is a strong part of Mowgli, used to say Mowgli's a place where you can come and test yourself. Not necessarily against someone else, but test yourself for yourself. To find out what your strengths are. And to find out maybe what your weaknesses are, but how to work on them. And the other thing the third thing that this story says is that even though you may be smaller, not as big, may not look as good. If you care in your heart, that can take you to places that you might not know are possible, that you might do some things that even someone that's bigger and stronger can't do. So the last thing I want to point out is that this happened because they were good friends. Boaz John was a good friend with the little mud hen. So, as your director, Mr. Robbins, has told you yesterday, you put away the blue and red. And out of that merges the friendships that are still there, that have been developing all summer. You know, I met friends this weekend that I haven't seen for almost 60 years. And as Charlie said, they're friends. If you've been to Mowglis, you're part of the pack, and it binds you in a way. And I've got to tell you honestly, I can't remember who was red and who was blue. But I remember the friendship. And I hope you will remember those. And I hope you, as you leave, get ready to leave this summer's experience, that you cherish those friendships and hold them close. I wish that as you go on your journey, Mahale, the great mystery, Esha Haman, our grandmother, will go with you on your journey, wherever it takes you. And I'll finally say, good hunting.